All right, guys, so it's a big one today. I'm back here at NT Performance, and we're actually gonna hopefully finish his 800 horsepower setup. We've got all the parts laid out. Matt's telling me he's got a lot of cool things to show us today, so we're gonna get right into it.
Sweet, so just off camera, me and Nico were sort of prepping the room because there was engine stands and stuff everywhere. But today we've got the oil pump, rear main seal and the sump. I've got everything here that I need to close the bottom end up. And we were sort of just looking at parts and stuff and time-wise if we can get through it today. We've also got the head gasket, which has to be prepped, and the head's complete. We've pretty much got everything we need to finish this engine today. Yeah, let's get into it. I guess this is what I've done with the oil pump. I'll show you everything. I'm not hiding any secrets. So this is just a Toyota Aisin pump, and it's just a stock pump. There's nothing seriously done to it. I've ported the inside of the housing here and here, and that's just for cavitation. You're trying to minimize cavitation by getting rid of any harsh edges. After I ported it, I glass media blasted. Some people call it vapor blasting. It's this glass wet media. And the pressure relief valve I've actually removed. So if you actually look in here, I've actually made a bung that goes in underneath the circlip there. That bung goes directly up to the pressure relief valve and holds it firm. And the reason for that is, and I was showing Nick this off camera, I'm actually doing an external pressure oil relief valve. So this is a Peterson external pressure relief valve. You've got oil in and out. There's a spring system in here and a plunger, the same as this system here. It's just bigger. And this allows me to actually adjust my high pressure, so my high oil pressure. So if I want my maximum PSI oil pressure to be, say, 100 PSI, I can just crank this down until I see 100 PSI at, say, I don't know, 5,000 to 6,000 RPM. And then if I want it less oil pressure, I just dump some out. So this has now been... This will go mount on the chassis rail of the car, and the oil pressure has to go back to the sump. So what I've done is in this sump, I've actually modified it. I've actually modified the sump to have this oil pressure. This is a return port. So I've welded this fitting on, and inside there's a tube that actually runs down. You might not be able to see this on camera, it's pretty difficult. But if we look down here behind this gate, I've just got a bolt holding the gate up. Behind that gate, there's a tube that comes through. So basically, any oil that the engine doesn't want to consume, or the pressure relief valve doesn't want to consume, it dumps back into where the pickup sits. So rather than the oil pump dumping the oil pressure out of this port here, and then it just hitting the front main cap of cylinder one main cap, or like main cap number one, and then hitting that and then dump and sort of draining down into the sump, we directly feed the oil back into the pickup. So we don't have any leak down issues, like the oil trying to fall back down to the sump.
One of the other things I think you were saying was you were thinking of cooling the oil before it went back.
Yeah, so it's also a cool thing because let's just say this is engine oil pressure in from the motor, and then that would go to a cooler and then back. If I put the cooler between this port here and then the pressure side of the engine, if I put a cooler in that spot, an oil filter and a cooler, I could actually cool the engine oil before it gets dumped back. So any oil that goes into the engine for pressure gets cooled, and any oil that goes back to the sump for return also gets cooled. So it's sort of like, if I started to have oil temperature issues, which I probably will considering going to a precision turbo, it's not water cooled, it's only oil cooled. I really sort of want better control of my oil temps, and I do not run a thermostatic oil pressure system. I run full flow oil pressure system, so no thermostatic. It's just consistent flow. I let my engines warm up. I start them, I let them warm, and then I take them to the moon. So
you mean thermostatic, like water cooling system?
No, oil. So you know, there's a product you can buy. It's like a thermostat housing for your oil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it'll actually short cycle when it's cold. When it's cold, it'll short cycle, so it won't go through a cooler. Yeah, then when it comes up to temperature, it opens the thermostat. Same as the thermostat for the water cooling.
Okay.
But they do it for oil.
So you don't like it because it's like a restriction, or you're worried about cooling?
I mean, I've never seen them really regulate oil temps that well. Like you sort of really get this varying oil temperature. They never really hold like a nice oil temp.
Okay.
Where if you just let the system have full flow, the oil temperature generally follows the same path as your water cooling.
Okay.
So I just let the water cooling system regulate the temperature for me, and I just run full flow. And then that way we just don't have any cavitation issues or, oil starvation problems. So
Nice.
yeah, that's one of the systems I'll be integrating into the new engine for the car. It's a pretty easy change to do, especially if you're building the engine. It's just a little plug in here, add this on the outside, and then just run some oil cooling lines around and a modification. So it's a little bit, I guess it's a little bit involved, but for me, I guess it's not too hard.
If your oil pumps out and you're doing it anyway, it's
yeah,
not
some
as
soften
bad.
oil pumps out. Yeah, you can change to that system, and like you say, then you have adjustable oil pressure in the top side of things. Obviously, low oil pressure, you can't change that. Like if your bearing clearances are too loose and you're not running a thick weight oil, your oil pressure is going to be quite low, especially when the oil pressure is hot. But as soon as you touch the throttle and you give it a little bit of RPM, the oil pressure just spikes and goes to the moon. So
yeah, so I don't know if you said it already in this video, but like for anyone that doesn't know, that would normally regulate the oil pressure.
Yeah,
so there'd normally be a spring
There's
in
a
there.
spring and a base in there. I can actually show you that. I've got it here. So here's the spring here, and there's the seat. So if we actually look at this spring seat would go like that, and then this would slide up into that, and the circlip here holds that spring base. So what I've done is I've just removed the spring completely, made a solid piece that actually stops that valve from opening. So it is reversible. It's a reversible process.
Yeah,
If I just get a pair of circlip pliers, remove that, and pull that plug out, I can put this spring back in, and it's a normal oil pressure system.
Yep.
But like you say, I'm moving to an external pressure system because I can, and I can adjust it. Yeah, a bit more control over it.
Cool.
Yeah, so what we're looking at now is just assembling the oil pump today. Like you say, I've also just sort of polished all the sharp edges off in the inside of the gearing here. This has all been polished just by light 2000 sandpaper. Just get rid of any sharp edges and a bit of polishing compound just to make it a bit prettier. I've got some Toto billet oil pump gears. These have been isotopic polished, so you can see like mirrors. This is something that I've seen a couple of guys actually say online. I've been looking recently online, and I did see a guy who talked about having a set of these gears, and when he installed them, they were tight. So he's closed his pump up and they were quite tight. What I have seen is a little bit of inconsistency on these gears with sizing. And if you measure them, they seem to measure okay, but if you put them in, they get tight. And I've actually seen it to where this ring here, which locates in the actual oil pump housing like this, I've actually seen that ring so big, and this gear so tight in here that it actually starts binding up on the housing, and it melts the front, melts the seal. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen a guy who races he used to race a little Starlet with a 7A turbo in it.
Yep.
And he showed me an oil pump that had done it, and he's like, "What do you reckon causes this?" And I said, "Are you running billet gears?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Did you get them polished?" He said, "No, I just put them in." And I said, "Well, there's probably a problem. It's probably a bit tight in the bore house, the housing size."
Okay.
And it's actually the friction has just created the front main seal to where when he pulled it apart, it was like, it's hard to see it wasn't really black and blue, but you could see the galling of the oil pump gear on the housing. So, and every set that I've put in a 4A, I've polished every single one, and we haven't had an issue. Every time I assemble them, I make sure that they have the same feel, for clearance, and that has the slightest amount of clearance. If you hold it this side, you can just move that. It might be hard to see. That has a small amount of clearance, but I've trial fitted this, but I didn't oil it because I sort of wanted to show you guys what I'm doing inside the oil pump. And if it works and the engine makes the horsepower that we want it to and it revs to where we want it to do, if you just copy what I do, it should do the same thing. But if it does it and it explodes, well then come back and roast me for it.
Yeah, you know what not
yeah,
to do.
don't do what I do. But yeah, no secrets here. So we'll assemble the pump. I Loctite read the bolts in. I've just got these little titanium bolts here. So there's a little titanium bolt. You can get like high tensile and stuff, but
They're originally screwdriver bolts, aren't they?
yeah,
They're
screw heads. Yeah, these are the original bolts here.
They're a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's them there.
Yeah.
If you use an impact drive, you can get them out easy. But if you're looking for the titanium bolts, that's them there. So race bolts, just go to the website. Here in Australia, you only need 5 of them. So if you're looking to get some titanium bolts for your oil pump housing, and I've got my SS Works oil pump, oil pickup.
Is that how come you didn't use the original? Like, what's the difference?
So I'll find an original. Give me one moment. I think you can't use the SS Works on a MRP sump. I don't think it works.
Ah, bastards.
That's probably why I haven't used them in the past.
Yeah.
So here's an OEM pickup versus the SS Works. So you can see where the tube underneath this strainer picks up from. There's no shielding around this section. So what this pickup does is, because the shield comes all the way down to the base of the sump, it really has no opportunity for slosh. So if air sloshes past it, it won't pick it up. This pickup is substantially better for like high G turning or high G acceleration. What I have seen in the past is if you get a bit of tube that's the diameter of this outside here, and basically put the oil pickup in the sump, run a straight edge across it, it goes like this. So if you put the pickup like this and run a straight edge across here, you can actually get a bit of tube and weld it to this section here, and then cut out little grooves in the bottom for the oil to come in, and basically that seals the strainer and the pickup as close to the base of the sump as possible. And if you actually make it sit on the bottom and then cut those grooves in, it's getting the best possible oil from as low as possible in the sump, where there's going to be less aeration. But like, again, the SS Works pickup is the same price as a brand new OEM pickup. So why not go with the SS Works one?
Yeah.
So
it's a very nice piece, isn't
it?
Yeah,
it's a bit nice, yeah. So they actually use an OEM pickup, and then they cut the head off it, and then they weld on this new strainer that they've managed to source from somewhere. I mean, it's all nice work, and then they've re-zinced it and whatever.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, they've got a little brace on there, so they've done a good job. Just be certain that if you do buy an SS Works pickup, it only works on certain sumps, so you have to be careful. And like I said, if you just put the oil pickup in place and put a straight edge across here to here, because these bolt onto the pickup points in the block, and this bolts onto the oil pump. I think it's actually down slightly. But set the pickup as would be if it was in your sump, and make sure there is clearance below the pickup to the sump pan. So if you don't do that, you're in for a bad time. So I just like to oil up in the radius there. There's a back cut inside that groove. So I run that in, give that a little bit of a spin. Feels beautiful. There's no tight spots.
Jump on the other side.
And then what I'll do is I'll run some oil in the groove down there, around the outside flat of this section, on the top of the gear here. Now I'm going to assemble this just with engine oil, because I'm going to have this on a test rig stand, so I'll be able to crank it over. If it takes me a period of time to get this engine into the car, I can just come in and just plug the starter motor in and just crank it over and register oil pressure every month or so if I need to. So long-term storage is not really a problem with the stands that I build, because I use a bell housing and a flywheel, and I've got starter motor and all that sort of stuff, and a big battery to power it all. So I've sort of set it up so if I do have long-term storage engines, I can just set them up, crank them over, register oil pressure again, push it in the corner, and it's good for another few months of storage.
Okay, so just to clear that, what you're referring to is if you just use engine oil on the oil pump, they can dry out and then you won't get pressure.
Correct,
the first start.
Rather than like a Vaseline or an assembly lube.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have it in long-term storage, or if it's going to be a long period of time before you actually, say you build your engine, you put it in the car, and it sits for a month whilst you wire it, and then you finish the rest of the car off, and there's another couple of months, unless you're actually like back feeding oil down through the engine and winding the engine over backwards to sort of suck some oil down into it. But if you're not doing that and you sort of let it sit, it will go dry, and it's probably not so much of an issue. I've seen plenty of engines sit for months and months and months and even years, and they just lean on it, they just crank them, and they don't they're not concerned too much about the galling that goes on inside the oil pumps and stuff, and they do work, but eventually you're going to have issues later on down the track.
Well, I remember you were telling me a story where I think it was an SR20, and you said the oil pump was completely dry and you just couldn't get oil pressure because there was no vacuum.
Oh dude, it just wouldn't pick up. Yeah. We end up getting the sump pan off, took the pickup off it, because we had a Tupperware container full of oil, and I held that up on the pickup, and I was like, crank it. So we're cranking it, and it wouldn't suck the oil up. So we end up pulling the pickup off it. We got a grease gun with like a nozzle on it. We jammed that up into the oil pump until I felt the gears, pumped it full of grease, pulled that out, put the pickup back on, put the Tupperware container under it, cranked it instantly. Man, it sucked that Tupperware container in seconds, and it was the size of this glass. It was about this. It was about the same size as that, and it was full of oil, and it cleared it just on cranking. It cleared it in like 3 seconds. Yeah. So it moves a lot of oil. Easy. All right. So backing plate, we're just going to sit him on, and what I'll do is I'm just going to go through and put a couple of these in, or all of them in rather, just dry with no Loctite and just loose, just to align the cover. These are like a countersunk head, so they align the cover. So just with it loose by hand, I'm just going to check that the oil pump gears spin. They feel beautiful. Same amount of resistance, the whole 360. Do a couple of turns. That feels good. That feels really good. Now I'm just going to go through and Loctite all my bolts, and I'll grab a texter. Yeah, so this is a life ruiner thread, Loctite.
The red stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff.
So yeah, Loctite one at a time.
Yep, mark
and
it.
then double check it still spins when you finish. That's it.
That's it. So now I'm just going to mark this with a texter. And same as a wheel, just going to star pattern. Alright guys, so that's an assembled oil pump. Let's just turn it over. Oh, it spins like a top.
Oh. Get the claw hammer.
Yeah, I'll try with the thumbs first, and then I'll get the claw hammer. Beautiful.
Is it in?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess that glass media blast gave it a really nice smooth surface, plus a bit of oil on the outside of the seal helped it go in nice.
Cool.
Alright, sweet.
Yeah, for any of our new viewers, Matt likes to use Hylimer on metal gaskets. Do you use it on other gaskets too? Paper and stuff, or?
Yeah, paper gaskets.
Just gives you a little like second line of defense for leaks.
Yeah, it just takes up any imperfections. But yeah, definitely on the you don't need to on the metal gaskets, to be honest. The metal gaskets have got the black coating on them.
But it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah, why not just run it? I've never had a leak with it. So the reason I turned it there was just to align the oil pump gears to the crankshaft. So I just found out where it aligned, and then I just slid it on from there.
I fully understand, mate. Oh. You gonna Loctite that shit?
No, I'm going to wind it in, tighten it down, then pull it back out and Loctite it.
Okay, you're good to go.
Can't see my holes anymore, so I'm just going to wing it. Ooh. Do you want to... Oh, you're doing your thing.
So you only want some in for you?
I was just going to say, can you load up these bolts on... But if you're busy filming, I can't take you away from your job.
Hey, look, I can get some screen time.
Yeah, any of the blind holes. If you can get the glue out, that's good. Dog. Did you get the two back ones? Do you want to grab the rubber mallet?
Claw hammer.
I wish. It's not straight, but if I can get it.
I didn't tap it too hard.
Yeah. Got it. That's all it needed. Just a little love tap. How'd you go? Are yours tight?
Yeah, like, I'm not going to swing on them, but
Yeah.
like they're pretty tight.
Man, it looks mad with tied sump bolts, eh? And we get the smear on at the end and make it look all schmick.
So we should plan ahead. The
Yeah.
camera that's in the other room through the window
Oh,
is
yeah.
facing us, so
Yeah.
maybe
I'll work from the other side.
when you do put the head on at least. So I decided to speed through the installation of this copper head gasket and firing system just because we have covered it in a previous video. If you haven't seen part 5 of the Formula Atlantic 4AGE build, where we built the engine for Merle's Pikes Peak race car, you can go back there and Matt goes through the installation of this system step by step. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely go back and check that one out.
Yeah, long extended periods of high RPM.
It doesn't get much of a break.
No. No, this car's substantially different. That's good. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just clear those holes, drop the head on. Oh. Okay, heads on, let's get some studs in. Mickey.
Is that groove up?
Yes. So you know how to do the nuts, yeah? So you
just the base, yeah?
Yeah, so you run it around the base, and then if there's excess, you make sure it's just on the inside of the thread, so as it winds down, it covers the thread.
Yeah, this ARP grease does seem like it's almost abrasive.
Yeah.
So you'd think that you wouldn't really want it going around the engine too much.
That's sort of why you want to do a change pretty quick after you build the engine, because it dilutes into the oil and you want to sort of change it out.
What's that cunt?
Magnet.
I didn't see you lubricate the... Oh, you don't have to lubricate the studs that go on a block, do you?
No, I don't. I keep them dry. I don't like the hydro locking effect. Like if there's ARP grease and you've got an air bubble under there, that expands. But if it's clear, it has an opportunity for the air to escape. So, oh wait a sec, you went to 60, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know what, I might just back this right off and just go to like the lowest setting this thing can do. And I'll just come up on like in stages.
So it sounds like...
Hear that?
Yeah, it's like it's settling.
Yeah. Yeah, little... Alright.
It's filling in the steam ports.
I think I blocked them anyway, to be honest. I think I filled those with epoxy.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I'm just going to clean off the glue or the ARP grease from the top of these bolts. And you can show this. So what I'm showing Nico now, guys, is because I've gone to a 1/2 inch head stud in this engine, I just need to confirm that the cam bridge that goes on over the top of the cams here sits underneath, the studs sit underneath. So if I put that down, this isn't at full tension yet, but I need to check it as we go. See how it's incredibly close? The stud is incredibly close to that cam bridge.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that that's not going to hold our cam bridge up as we tension the head down and crush everything, because if it does, I've got to pull the stud out and machine it down a little bit more, or crank the stud down tighter into the block to give us that clearance, because if it does put pressure on the cam bridge, you can imagine what it's going to do to the cam drill. It's going to put it out of alignment. So yeah. I just have to make sure that we're low enough, because I might have actually, when I put these studs in, I might have had them in different holes and the heights are a little bit different now. Okay. So worst case, I've just got to pull a stud out, detension it all, pull a stud out and just check it. But I'm just going to check it with this. So there is a little bit of clearance. Nope, I'm actually sitting on the stud. So I'm not sitting on that stud. This one, I'm not. So this stud might be in this position. So I'm okay. This stud's becoming an issue, so I've got to quickly address that now whilst the glue's setting.
So you're just going to crank it?
I'm going to detension the nut and then wind that down a little bit more if it will go. It's only 60 pounds at the moment, but when I put 100 pounds on it and it starts coming down, there should be...
Oh, is it turning?
It might have, yeah, it might have had a few more turns in it. You can't, because I've ground the heads of them down, you can't really put an Allen key in here and swing on them too hard. So I'll just... Let's go back to 60. Let's double check. Still sitting up. No good. Alright, so that stud's going to come out. I'm just going to take some off the top.
Could you take it off the bottom? Like say...
No, I want as much thread purchase as I can in the bottom.
Okay.
Because the studs are hanging out the top of the nut, like the threads above the nut aren't being used. But I'm using every bit of that stud in the block.
So, yeah, okay.
I need as much thread as I can get because you're not sitting on a lot.
Why is that? You're going to be putting boost in this thing or something?
Just a little bit. Alrighty, so after a quick modification of the stud, gonna go for round 2. Yeah, it's well below. You can fit 20 thou feel gauge on that, maybe more, a millimetre or so, 40 thou.
Cool.
Sweet. So tension that back up to 60. Okay, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. I'm just going to go 1 through 10. That moved a few degrees. So did that. That didn't. That did. Alright, so they all cleared 60. Just going to double check my cam clearance and then I'm going to step it up to 80 and then we'll go to 100. Alright, this is 80 pounds. That took every bit of it. Yep, good. That had a little bit more travel by a few degrees. Or that travelled heaps. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was bad. But that was this the stud spinning, wasn't it? Not the bolt.
That could have been the stud spinning at the bottom. So that's also
it did eventually tension up.
Sorry?
Like it did eventually tension up.
It
like,
did.
Yeah.
It did. But that's not 100 yet. So
yeah.
Hopefully we're not pulling threads out the block. I don't think I can get a feeler gauge under that. So I might have to pull this stud out now and double check it.
Why don't you just get a 16 valve, man?
Because you know I like doing things the hard way, right? I just like fucking around with stupid engines. What should I do about that?
Grind it, man. I reckon,
yeah.
But you don't have to loosen all of them, do you? Just one?
No, I'll just take this one off.
I reckon just take it off and do it. You don't want to... And you, at least you can have a look at it, what it looks like.
I'm just concerned because it did move, and you know what else I'm concerned about is these two studs have the dowels in the block.
Yeah.
So the thread on these 3 studs comes all the way to the deck face. These ones don't. These ones are turned down for the dowel. So this stud and this stud don't have as much thread purchase in the block.
But if there is something bad going on inside, you're going to want to know about it now, not...
When I'm spraying water out the side of the head.
That's what I'm just trying to... Like, at least if you pulled it out, you have a look at it and say...
Yeah, I can have a bit of a look.
And then it's a pain in the ass, but at least you haven't put the motor in the car and shit.
Yeah, for sure. Nico, always the voice of reason. Me just want to do dodgy shit.
Helicoil's not a big deal.
Yeah, it is. At this size it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd helicoil factory size, which I've done in that motor, but I wouldn't helicoil 1/2 inch in this because there's not a lot of block left.
Right. Well, maybe don't pull it out.
Bruh!
You wanna, the thread would have been steel, wouldn't it, if you put a magnet in there? If there's any threads?
Oh no, it would have come out.
Okay.
It would have come out, the threads would have come out with that, but it tensioned, so it didn't pull the threads.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Oh.
How'd that feel?
Stressful.
But did it feel weird?
No, it felt good. Heaps of clearance.
It feels stressful.
So we've got plenty of clearance under that now. Same here, and same there. So they're all good. And we're at 80 pounds. So we're going to go to 100. And this is it. Fingers crossed for me, guys, because if it pulls a thread, it's basically throw the block in the bin. I can't really fix it. There's no thread repair that we can do to 1/2 inch. So here we go.
The suspense is building.
Yeah, man. It's a bit suspenseful for me because I don't really want to throw this block in the bin. Oh. Good. Oh, good. Don't do me dirty. Come on, baby. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, thank fuck. I didn't think it was going to do it, eh? Come on. Come on. Oh, thank fuck. Just want to do it easy. Oh, fuck.
Those last two with the dowels are a bit fucking how you going, eh?
Stressful, hey? Alright, so when we were a bit stressed about 2 of the stud positions on that engine, and if you go back through the video and actually watch, you can actually see on this center 3 holes here on the intake side, the thread comes to the deck face. Now if we look at these, the thread starts just underneath the deck surface, but since we've gone to a 1/2 inch stud, we have more purchase. So what we do is we drill this hole out completely, clear it out completely, all the old threads, and then we run a tap down a 1/2 inch UNC. Now, because of the diameter of the bolt, the 1/2 inch stud has, the maximum yield of a bolt is 1.5 times its diameter. That's into the material that you're actually tapping into. So if you've got 1/2 inch, you need 750 thou depth for it to get its maximum clamping or pulling ability in the metal. So the further you go, the stronger it gets. Obviously, if you've got 2 inches of thread for a 1/2 inch, for a 1/2 inch diameter thread, you've got 4x. So the threads come all the way to the deck surface, and in these 2 positions are our dowel positions. So when you're machining a slight recess for a dowel, but you need every bit of that thread, I mean, we've lost 2 threads we've lost 2 threads roughly. Might not sound like a lot, but when these 2 positions and I'm tensioning them and you can feel the tension wrench getting a little bit more than the 3 inside ones, then it's sort of like, well, what's the issue? Is the head soft? I don't think so, because the head's been hardness tested. We're starting to really pull on those blocks, on the threads in the block.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what, that was the reason that these 2 were a bit sketchy. So this one and that one.
Yeah. And if we actually look, like the ribs, so these ribs, right behind that rib is the head stud, and then back here there's no rib. So 1 rib, 2 rib, 3 rib, and then there's no rib here behind these studs. So we're working against the block pull on the center. So if you had a rib here and a rib there where those head studs were, you'd also feel a bit more confident that there's some anchoring behind the stud. But we work with what you've got and we'll just see what it does. But we've got 100 pounds on this, and as much as I don't want to do it, I have to. I'm going to let this sit for a little bit. We're going to have some lunch, eat some food. We're going to let this settle, and we're going to come back and recheck it. So we're just going to run the 100 pounds over it again. So if there's any settling happening with the gasket, with the glue, anything like that, you just recheck it. Generally, you find that the stud will twist and then twist back. So when you actually pull on it, the nut will twist and twist back, and that means it's actually at its 100 pounds of pressure. Alright, we're back from lunch, guys. We're just going to go over this one more time, double check the tension, make sure it hasn't moved and everything's settled down. We've probably given it, what, half an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
Yep. So, let's go. 100 pounds, double checking. Didn't move at all. Didn't move. Didn't move. That felt like it moved a touch, but it sprung back. And the danger one. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alright, guys.
Solid, man.
Yeah. 100 pounds, done.
What's the difference between that and 20 though?
I don't know. There is a difference between them. I think it's like offset. There is a difference between these. between 16 and 20 valve.
So as Matt completes the assembly of this engine, I'm here to tell you that that's all we have time for today. So hopefully next time you see this engine, it'll be running in the car and making some power. But in the meantime, I highly recommend checking out the video series I did on Matt's KE70, where we get the car running again with its current setup and we take it out for some testing. Matt also has some big news that he'll be sharing in the upcoming videos, and I'm currently working on a series of my own where I respray my AE86. So with that said, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Right, yeah, just hold it. Yeah, there. Oh no. Oh. Oh no! Perfect. A perfect drill hole. Fucking hell.
Is that what you use for all your drawings?
Yeah, man. I claw hammers and old drills, man.
Fuck.
That's what I do. I've got a little meal. Succulent Chinese meal. Have you seen that guy?
Oh, no.
The guy that got arrested, the Aussie guy? Back in the day? What is the charge?
The one that said, get your hand off my penis.
Yeah, get your hand off my penis.
Succulent Chinese meal, I don't remember
He goes, what is the charge? What is the charge? Eating a meal? Succulent Chinese meal?
I remember that.
Yeah. And then he's like, I see you know your judo well.
Yeah.
Get your hands off my penis!
That's what modified motor you got there. It ain't no V8.
You should smoke some V8s.